sitting in the tavern, you hear the halfling say, "Oi, it's a shame. What happened over at the Nettleby Ranch? One of the fire witches is back. Yes, thousands of years ago, in this part of the world, there was fire witches. They would live in burrows in the ground. Not a 10-day ago, old Nettleby, he wakes up in the middle of the night, the smell of smoke. He sees part of his ranch on fire. Runs out with his son Bertram. And they go and they find a stone sundered and the hill on fire and great gouts of flame coming from inside it. Well, they got close and they hear whispers from inside the hill. I tell you, the fire witch is back all right. And that's not the half of it. Every few days since then, more of the Nettleby's animals come up with a strange brand. It looks like a flame on it. I tell you, it's true. Yeah, you want to do something to help in these parts, you adventurers? Go over to the Nettleby Ranch, and you take care of that fire witch. Hey everybody, welcome to Lore Friday for September 18th, 2020. I am your host, DM Galabond, and tonight's episode is Curse of the Fire Witch. Let's go ahead and take a look at how this one plays out. All right, Curse of the Fire Witch. It is an adventure that comes from the Princes of the Apocalypse campaign, and this one is really a full adventure, but it's set in a very compact area. And it kind of plays out. You have to wonder if they weren't inspired by something like an episode of Star Trek on this one, because it really, really does have kind of a Star Trek feel to it. But it fits very nicely into the campaign, and it is tied to a couple of things that the party may have done before, and also foreshadows things that they may see in the future. All right, so Wigan Nettleby is a miserly old halfling, and he has amassed a fortune, and he has learned that a cult dedicated to the earth, to elemental earth, is operating in the area. And instead of being frightened by that, he thinks, oh, my crops grow in the earth. If somebody knows something about earth, that would be kind of good. And so he's actually made friends with some of the people from the Sacred Stone Monastery. Now, remember a few weeks ago, we looked at the Sacred Stone Monastery as one of the adventures from level 4 for level 4 characters from Princes of the Apocalypse. Now, this Curse of the Fire Witch is for level 5, so it's supposed to take place after the characters have been to the Sacred Stone Monastery, and in fact, it's tied into that. Uh, the cult has kind of started to reel in the Nettleby clan because they helped Wigan Nettleby remove some of his rival ranchers. So he's recently acquired more property because the cultists killed off his rivals, and he was able to buy their property for a song. And so his oldest son, Bertram, has now also become an initiate of this earth cult. Well, the Earth cult got attacked at Sacred Stone Monastery by some meddling adventurers, and now they want revenge. So they have asked Wigan and Bertram to set a trap, lure the party in, and then kill the party. Okay, so this big cult, they're going to have a bunch of halflings do their dirty work for them. Not directly, it's kind of ingenious what they have planned. So on Nettleby's ranch land, there are a series of barrows that are burial mounds for the Uthgart barbarian tribes. And these are, of course, very sacred places. And what the plan is, what the plan involves is that the Nettlebys have created a brand that is has the symbol of the cult of elemental fire, and they have broken into one of the barrows. They set the barrow alight. They desecrated a tomb and took a lot of the burial goods from the chieftain that was buried there. And then a few days after that, after there was this evidence of this fire on the hill, they began branding their own cattle at night with this brand. And they've been spreading these rumors about a fire witch because there are ancient rumors about fire witches in the area. And so also that has started to make everybody afraid that a cult of elemental fire is operating in the area, which is not untrue. And of course, the earth cult and the fire cult are kind of at odds because they both want to be the most important cult in the view of the all-powerful elemental eye. So when the party goes in there, they will find out about these rumors. And if they go to the ranch, the ranchers will be, oh, they're so glad that the party has come. And they will take the party and show them this burial mound or the barrow mound. And they will say, yeah, uh, the fire witch must be in there because we've heard the whispers in there. So, of course, they expect the party to go into the barrow mound. And when they get deep inside, Wigan will pull out a scroll, unfurl it, and read the scroll. And it's a scroll of summon earth elemental. So, what the earth elemental will do is the earth elemental will collapse the entrance of the tunnel and is supposed to go in and kill the party after they are sealed inside this barrow. So that's how they expect the party to be killed. Well, there's a little wrinkle to that. When the party gets in, they notice that the air is unnaturally cool. And as they get to the heart of that, before even the scroll can be read, there's all the light sources go out, and the room gets very cold, and a ghostly figure of a man comes up, and then all of the bones just come together, and then standing before the party is this pale aspect of an ancient Uthgard chieftain named Javan. And Javan is now a revenant. Uh, he knows that somebody has desecrated his grave. He also knows that those who have not desecrated his, or those that have desecrated his grave, are not in the tomb, but they are just outside. So now things start to form in the party's mind. Wait a minute. if they're just outside, the guys that sent us in here are just outside. And it's kind of supposed to be at that point that you spring it on the party. Oh, hey, there's a grinding noise down there, and the light is going, and the tunnel is collapsing. And now there's this movement, and you see an earth elemental gliding through the ground, and then it pops up and it starts beating the snot out of you. Well, Javan doesn't care. The old Uthgard chieftain doesn't care a whit about the earth elemental, doesn't really care a whit about the party. All he cares about is getting revenge. So he ignores the elemental, and the elemental ignores him, and he goes off chasing after the Wigan and his son. And there's a time frame, it's like 2 minutes. He can dig himself out of the burial chamber and start heading for the ranch. So then the party first has to fight this earth elemental and deal with it. Then the party has to chase after the Uthgard Revenant. And when the Uthgard Revenant gets outside, he's not by himself. 12 members of his tribe have come up, and several of the members of the tribe recognize by his burial clothes, they recognize who he is. And when he points to the ranch and says, they desecrated my grave, okay, the Uthgard decide they're just going to go kill everybody that's in the ranch. Now, if the party happens to catch up to Javan and come out with him, the Uthgard are smart enough to realize, oh, he didn't kill them, so they must not be involved. They must be kind of, if they're not our enemies, they're at least not against us. And it may be they're not against the Uthgard until they hear the plans. Because as it turns out, not all of the Nettlebees are in on this whole fire cult or earth cult nonsense. And most of them actually have no idea what's going on. It's only the patriarch, the widowed patriarch, and his son Bertram. Everybody else in the family has no idea that there's any connection between the Nettlebees and the Black Earth cult. So the party have a dilemma. Do they just like back off, hands off, and let Javan and his Uthgard go and take revenge because the old revenant chieftain will only kill Wigan Nettleby and his son Bertram. However, the rest of the Uthgard will slay every other member of the family and will steal everything that they have, including all of their livestock, and they will burn the house to the ground, uh, all as punishment against the Nettlebees for desecrating the grave of their ancient chieftain. So the party has to kind of figure out, do we want to be negotiators? Do we want to try to limit the losses on either side? Yes or no? Do they want to intervene and fight against the Uthgard to try to save the Halfling family? Or do they want to um, do they want to side with the Uthgard, somehow try to keep them from killing everybody, but give back the grave goods that were stolen from the chieftain and set everything back aright in the tomb. So there's all these options, all these opportunities that are in there. Now, if the party does choose a middle path, they have no way that they can save Wigan and Bertram um, unless they destroy the Revenant and kill all of the Uthgard. But then, of course, they're going to make themselves enemies of all the Uthgardt tribes if the party does that. If they do allow the chieftain to have his revenge, but they keep the tribe from killing everybody, well, the chieftain will kill Bertram and the patriarch Wigan. Then, once his vengeance is satisfied and they locate the items that were taken from the grave, the chieftain will task the party with returning all the items to the grave, returning his bones to the grave, resetting everything, and resealing the barrow. And if they do all of that, the party will actually receive a figurine of wondrous power, which is one of the items that was stolen from the grave. The if they put it back, they put everything back. A few days later, one of the characters will find that figurine in their bag, and it's kind of they will realize, oh, we put this back, but now I have it. Oh, it must be the old chieftain, you know, the old chieftain's way of saying thank you. Uh, if they are able to keep the Uthgardt from killing all of the rest of the Nettleby family members, then the surviving Nettleby family members will eventually catch up to the party and they will give them a bag of holding. So there's a reward for actually kind of taking the middle ground here. And then, of course, there's a punishment for being too harsh on one side or the other. If you wipe out the Uthgardt or the Uthgardt tribal members who are there, and if you wind up stopping stopping the Revenant, then you'll have the wrath of all of the Uthgardt tribes on the party members. If you wind up siding with the Uthgardt and slaughtering all of the halflings, well, if that news ever gets out that you were part of that, then there's none of the halflings in that area are ever going to trust you. They're going to think um, that you're just a bunch of mercenaries, and they're all going to be afraid of you, and you're very unlikely to get help. Now, the other thing is, if you somehow survive and Wigan and Bertram stay alive, they will eventually run to the Black Earth Temple and they will report that the party escaped. And so that will mean further reprisals from the Black Earth Temple against the party. Now, of course, that will also mean that they failed in their mission, so they may face some consequences, which is up to you as the DM. What would happen to them once the Black Earth realizes that the Nettlebees failed to kill the party? Um, so those are all a bunch of different possibilities. This is kind of the thing that I really like a lot about this adventure. It's there's enough of a story there that you can play it out over 2 or 3 sessions, or if your party makes fast work of everything, you can do it all in a single session. But it has a clear beginning, a middle, and an end. But then there are inflection points throughout that the party can make decisions, and those decisions have longer term ramifications throughout the campaign. So you could, make an enemy out of the Uthgardt tribes, which that would be a way of the DM then sort of throwing in recurring encounters that are supposedly random but aren't so random because maybe they're being hunted down by the Uthgardt, who send maybe ever increasing numbers to try to deal with these people that have desecrated old chieftain's grave. Um, if they let the nettle bees go, well, that's going to turn around and bite them, because then the Black Earth cult is going to be aware of them, and they are going to still try to come after them again. Uh, and then there's the whole thing of, if you steer that middle course just right, you can actually get some nice rewards in the form of magic items from both sides, both from the Uthgard chieftain and from the Nettleby family. So that's kind of a cool thing. All of the creatures, with the exception of the Revenant that you deal with in here, are humanoids that have been in every edition of D&D, so it's easy to move this to another edition of the game. And the Revenant is a D&D undead that has been around for a long time. It goes back, I think, at least until AD&D, and maybe even to the original edition. It might have been in there, but there's all kinds of things you can do. So you can reset this and recast this into any edition of the game that you want to. So that is the Curse of the Fire Witch. So like I said, it's one of these things like where um, kind of like some episodes of Star Trek, you find out that the person that you meet that you think is the uh, nice or the victim of something is actually kind of behind the whole problem in the first place. It also kind of sets up the Nettlebees as sort of victims or villains, not victims. Sets them up as villains in like a Scooby Doo cartoon. I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for those meddling adventurers. Uh, and then you have the whole supernatural D&D thing with the Revenant being an undead monster that is bent on getting revenge for uh, the desecration that has happened to a tribal grave. All right, I have been DM Galabond. Uh, this has been Lore Friday. Almost before we go, I forgot a really important section. One of the things we talk about is how you can take this and plug it into a homebrew campaign. Well, you've got. I mean, this is kind of great to be able to tie in with almost any kind of campaign that you're running. This can either be sort of an isolated incident that's not connected to the main plot line, or you could connect it with whatever um, big bad is represented in the campaign that you're running, where it might be halflings that are there. You could, of course, change the Nettlebees to any kind of race if it doesn't make sense for halflings to be in that part of the world. But if there's an evil cult or an evil um, organization or some big evil warlord or something that the party has been causing problems with, well, maybe somebody in this family is allied with them or owes them a debt that they can't get out of paying, and this is this is the debt that they're required to cash in, is doing this thing to try to entrap and kill the party. So there's a lot of things that you can do, and you might even have a total MacGuffin with that brand. In this case, there is actually a fire cult operating in the area. So even if the characters latch on to that symbol, they will be able to go and find that symbol in other places and eventually have it lead them to the fire cult. But in a homebrew game, you may make that some kind of odd symbol that just has nothing to do, and you can get it to be something that just sends your players on a wild goose chase if you're that kind of DM. I like to tend to have things that will take you off to the side and away from the main plot from time to time, but I don't like to have those be complete MacGuffins because that means that I have to prepare something for them to run off after a complete MacGuffin, even if it's going to take them to, you know, they think they're following a lead and it takes them to a completely different place and they wind up facing some sort of challenge that's totally unrelated to anything. It still makes me do work for that. So uh, that's that's just my personal preference. I don't have a whole lot of time to do that. I like things like this where there's multiple leads to different things. I think it also says in there that if you somehow get a confession out of the Nettlebees, um, they to try to save their own skins, the Nettlebees will tell the party everything about the Black Earth cult, including the fact that they know where the underground temple is and they know the password to get into the temple. They also know the names of some of the leaders of the Black Earth cult. So that could be valuable information for the party. But you have to keep Wigan Nettleby alive long enough to tell you that uh, if the Revenant hasn't been destroyed, it won't stop the Revenant from killing him, but he will allow the party to interrogate him before he uh, carries out his sentence against Wigan and Bertram. So that is all of that. All right. I have been DM Galabon. This has been Lore Friday. If you like everything that we do here on the channel, please subscribe. Please like the video. Please share the video. Please click the post notification bell so that you can be notified every time a new video drops on the channel. We have new content every day of the week here, talking about a different aspect of D&D. And in the description, you'll find all the ways you can follow me on social media and about the live streams that I do. In the comments below, I would be really interested to know if you have run this adventure. How did it go? If you were a player in this particular adventure, what did you think? Did you enjoy the adventure playing through it? What parts of it did your DM let you experience? What did your party decide to do in that whole conflict between the ranchers and the barbarians? Did you let the barbarians have at them, or did you try to save the family? And then what repercussions were there from the decisions that you made? All right. Thanks a lot. Take care. We hope to see you back here again next week for Lore Friday. Good night, everybody.